So I don't want to start immediately with the train stabbings. I want to sort of talk about the environment before that. On the 31st of October, we had calls for the some kind of action to be taken after an asylum seeker stabbed to death another immigrant, actually, Gurvinder Johal, in a bank branch. He just walked into the bank branch, stabbed him on the 31st, on the 6th of May, and then on the 31st October, he was sentenced. And there's all kinds of talk about that. Then on the 2nd of November, we had somebody in Glasgow basically going around assaulting girls, and one of the locals gives him a talking to, but it's entirely pointless. You can see from the clip here that the man is wasted, drunk, a wastrel. Nobody knows where he's from, but he's running around abusing random girls in Glasgow city centre. In New York, on the 31st of October, it came out that a man confessed to raping a woman in York. Now here, the York press says that they mention his name. They don't give any details. But then in another article, they tell you that actually he's an illegal migrant. He typically hangs around clubs, chases women wherever he can find them. And in this particular incident, he takes a woman, frog marches her into an alleyway or something, and then proceeds to rape her. First, he pled not guilty, and then he changed his plea, but he had a partner, and the partner wasn't charged.
I'll just say on the question of York as well, I think according to the last census of 2021, York is one of the few cities in England that had been not untouched, but still had very secure demographic, about 90% English. And so to see this starting to pour into York is dreadful.
I lived in York for 7 years, and it's a wonderful city. I will say, though, that there was some problem with spiking drinks.
Yep. Well,
and I have heard, sadly, incidents of the sort many times.
So also on the 31st of October, it came out that a man by the name Izzeddin al-Sheikh Suleiman was arrested because he was now in Britain as an illegal migrant, but he had been accused of raping a child in Germany, and now he's being extradited. In Kent, in Faversham, a man goes around saying that he wants to kill people, screaming Allahu Akbar, no particular details around him other than the obvious, but he's running around Faversham with a big knife trying to kill whoever he can find. In terms of police priorities, you see that the police made a chippy remove benches because these might be used as weapons in Somerset.
I mean, if you can use benches as weapons, what else can you not use?
Pretty much. And then in Leeds, there was a pro-Palestine protest, and this guy climbs on top of a police van with a Quran, yelling Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah, all of that stuff. And it seems he or somebody around him in that riot had set a police van on fire. These are all in the last couple of days. I'm not even doing the full week. I'm just covering the last couple of days. In Birmingham, you have a massive fight between what looks like a couple of transsexuals and a group of migrants. And you see in this video that the migrants are going around using pretty big fireworks and firing them at vehicles, police cars, whatever they can get their hands on. And you can see that this is a massive risk of arson. And you can see that quite easily a car could catch on fire. I won't show you the whole video, but you get the point. Also, on the 31st, a man, Muslih al-Utaybi, is sentenced for, the news comes out that he's sentenced on the Thursday, but earlier reports we find out that actually he's an illegal migrant from Saudi Arabia, and that he had been on the central line between Oxford Circus and Mile End, where he assaulted a 17-year-old girl.
Obviously, she didn't shout mate loud enough, as Sadiq Khan would have had to do.
Yeah. And then also on the 31st of October, it comes out that on the 21st of October, a teenager had been raped in Clare Park in Haywards Heath. This is just the news that came out between the 31st on today, you know? And also, 31st October, an asylum seeker is sent to jail for 3 years for actually raping and assaulting a woman. Fawaz al-Samo, maybe Iraqi, don't know, you know, originally from Syria. Okay, so close by.
The point is, 3 years for something of this sort is just
too lenient.
It's just it's just an FU to people.
Yeah, too lenient.
Yeah.
And then, just as a reminder, on the 28th, Wayne Broadhurst had been murdered by a 22-year-old Afghan illegal asylum seeker. Asylum seeker. I mean, that's the word that's doing a lot of heavy lifting. So this is the context, just in the last week, of the incidents that have happened. Like, and I'm sure there's more. You know, I just did a search for a couple of hours, and this is what I could find. I'm sure there's more. I'm sure there's incidents that are going to be reported next week as having previously happened, etc., etc. And you see this steady tempo, this endless tempo of one attack after the other, and just stupidity from the police. I mean, is it really British people who are throwing around picnic benches and attacking people with picnic benches?
Doesn't really have any historical precedent. The other thing as well, of course, that I would just like to say about this is the way that the state treats these types of events, which is just to say that if you have something like, I don't know, Mo Farah just won a race for England, right? Or, this immigrant just opened up this wonderful restaurant, right? Then that is always regarded as, even if they are second generation, third generation, it's used as an argument for how people of immigrant backgrounds enrich us, and it works. These examples are not allowed to be used, according to the state, as examples of why it's been an absolute effing disaster.
Exactly.
That has
You're
claimed
only meant to
countless
see
lives.
one side of it.
The very fact that crime data are not published with ethnicity is an admission that something is going wrong. Because if that weren't the case, they would have concrete evidence, and they would say, hey, look, integration or a form of assimilation is working. It is helping. Them listening that they are well behaved helps to their integration. Nothing of this sort happens.
Absolutely. So then on Saturday, in this environment of just steady attacks on girls, on women, on men, on pretty much everybody, we get the stabbing on a train that was going from Doncaster to London.
Train I've got more than any other. Been on it countless times.
Right. And a few minutes after the train departs, this guy, Anthony Williams, goes around stabbing people. 10 people get stabbed. But it turns out that he had spent his day also in a bit of a stabby mood. So here's some video of him in London. Getting absolutely wasted, clearly doing nothing of benefit to other human beings, to society in general. He walks into a barber shop with a knife. He walks in and he's parading this knife, and we have no idea what's going on. But he gets reported to the police, and nothing happens. Like, he walks in, he's waving a knife. I don't know what's in his other hand. Anyway, clearly pointless human being. He gets tased, and he asks the police to kill him. He gets captured by the police and tased, and he's asking the police to kill him. There were some heroes on that train. The driver is commended. He's a veteran. He's commended for quickly diverting the train and making sure that the police get on. And another man actually gets in the way of the knife, and the man holding the knife, and a young woman he was trying to stab. For his efforts, he gets stabbed twice. As of now, there are 5 people still in hospital. 11 people in total were hospitalized. Five of them are still in hospital. 2 of them were supposed to be in life-threatening condition. So we pray for their recovery. And the police are saying that there's no terrorist motive. And we know that we're going to get the story about this being mental health. And we're going to go into the same argument. No, he should be kept in some kind of secure hospital and paid for by the taxpayer for life. When everybody knows that the reasonable thing to do with somebody who's too insane to not go around trying to murder people is to hang them. We know that the thing to do is obviously to hang somebody like that, because it turns out that he then assaulted a police officer after he got arrested. And so on top of the 10 or 11 attempted murder charges that he's facing, he's also facing a charge of aggravated bodily harm, meaning that he did succeed in assaulting that officer after he was detained, and meaning that this person has no control over himself and can't stop attacking people. The police say that they sort of declared the Plato, the national code word for a marauding terror attack, but then they were saying there's nothing to suggest that this is a terrorist incident, meaning that the guy is just completely out of control.
It's not ideological.
No.
He just wanted to harm. He wanted to kill.
Yeah, like Axel Rudabakana.
Yeah.
And like many others like him who will just go around stabbing, stealing, doing evil for no obvious reason. And the narrative now is about, is this illegal migration? No, the guy was born in Britain. A cat born in a barn is still a cat. It doesn't change who you are. I say this as an immigrant myself without any sort of sensitivity. But it is very much about immigration, because certain groups are more prone to crime, to schizophrenia, to mental illness than others.
And isolated incidents.
Exactly.
Within quotation.
Exactly.
What I want to say is that very frequently, if the guilty person, let's say, in any kind of incident is someone that the left doesn't consider oppressed, and it's an oppressor, they instantly
it's part of a pattern.
Yeah, they instantly say it.
See a pattern.
Yes.
When it
because they
doesn't
say
suit them to
far
see a
right,
pattern,
you far
they don't
right
see a
people, I
pattern.
want you to shut up. So when they don't do this almost instantly, it means that it comes from a group that the left wants to portray as oppressed.
Yep.
And that's exactly what they did in this case.
Always.
They were trying to come up with 1.5 days or 2 days with the British-born thing.
You knew he was ethnically foreign the moment that you saw British national in the headline.
And you knew that the minute they delayed announcing his ethnicity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we sort of saw the example with the Liverpool car incident, where they immediately released his ethnicity.
Yes.
Now they're stuck, and it took them 12, 16, 24 hours, whatever it did, to actually release it. He had stabbed someone earlier in the day on the DLR. But because it was only one person getting stabbed, the police didn't respond in force, and so he got away. And then he proceeded to commit this attack, and one eyewitness says, a girl says that he was coming to her, and she said, please, please don't. Then something changed in his eyes, and he said, the devil is not going to win. The taxi driver who saw the guy getting arrested said that he was laughing, and he told the officers arresting him, the devil always wins. So we have someone saying that he's essentially possessed by demons, or that he's serving the devil, or whatever it is. And you see the pattern constantly, and you see this being repeated time and time and again.
at some point, we have to think of public safety.
Yes.
And the public good.
Yep.
And I'm entirely fed up with this woke nonsense that says that all we need is representation of particular groups in the police force or something. No, we want the protection of the common good. We want public safety. And this is the number one duty of government.
Yep, exactly.
It's to protect the public safety. It's not to come up with constant excuses as to why they can't do it, which is what they are doing.
And so the police end up saying that what they're going to do now is to deploy a lot more police to flood major stations and trains on the affected East Coast line and all over London and so on and so forth. But this is only going to last until Tuesday.
I mean, we know that this doesn't work from Germany.
Exactly.
It happens.
So
and also,
performative.
Exactly.
Look at how the left has a tradition of saying individuals are not an island into themselves.
Yep.
The same applies for trains and train stations. If the entire country within which these train stations and trains operate and exist is going down this road, this will affect also the trains. And just focusing on the trains and the stations is just micromanagement of decline.
It's just collective punishment of the innocent, i.e. the native people of this country, because the states let in millions and millions of people who shouldn't be here, wouldn't ask to be here, and now endanger us every day.
Yep. So the idiot Shadow Home Secretary, Chris Philip, says that there should be a dramatic increase in stop and search to take far more off knives on the street. How about dramatic enforcement of the law or of immigration law or of things of that nature? Because think about it this way. This guy is supposedly British born. And you've had this flood of illegal migrants whose children are going to be called British born when they commit these kinds of crimes. Now, the parents of Anthony Williams may not have committed any crime, and may have been law-abiding. And this is what turned out. And if you see this flood of illegal migrants who are so accustomed to committing crime all the time, and then their children become British because they've been given asylum or they've given refugee or whatever it is, you can extrapolate that the crime that is going to happen in the future is much more intense, frequent, and damaging. So this isn't a solution here. Then he calls for a rollout of live facial recognition cameras. London and Britain in general are probably the most surveyed societies in the world. There are cameras everywhere. Are they helping? Are they actually helping? Do you feel safe? I mean, the news that we covered was just from 31 October. Just news that was released on 31 October about crimes that had been happening or crimes that had happened.
Any law and any policy is as good as the will to enforce it.
Exactly.
So the number of cameras doesn't matter if there is no will to actually police the public.
Exactly. And if some groups refuse the legitimacy of the police and tell you that they're oppressed and that stop and search is racist and so on and so forth, they're telling you we're not going to integrate and this isn't going to work. So what are you wasting your time with instead of being honest about the problem? What are you wasting your time with?
Sorry, the only reason earlier on that I brought up the fact that I've obviously used that particular train journey so often, the Doncaster and London one, is also not so much to like highlight myself, but also it's, you know, if ever my sister comes down to London, you know, so that we can spend a day together or something, that's the line it gets. And it's like, if my family had just got that train for whatever reason,
I mean,
you know, and it's like
of it is terrifying,
right? And this is the thing: it's like you think, oh, it won't be, but it always surprises you.
Yep.
You always Ariana Grande pop concerts, trains from London to Doncaster, wherever.
The DLR where he stabbed someone else,
right?
A nightclub, a square.
There is nowhere.
Anything.
There are places that are more likely than others.
Yeah.
But that doesn't take away from the fact now that because of the sheer treachery of the establishment, no one is truly safe.
So let's hear very intelligent thoughts from Kemi Badenoch.
She ever had one?
Many people will be asking the same questions that I'm thinking of right now, which is why is it that despite so much activity, so much done, legislation to ban knives, so much investment in mental health, so much more, we're seeing more and more violence on our streets? How can we protect ourselves? What is causing this? Lots of people will be speculating. I think we should wait until more facts emerge. But there's clearly something going wrong in our society right now.
And let's hear Kemi Badenoch's answer to what's going on. Thanks from Christ is King, somebody on X, a follower of ours. Thanks to the diaspora of the 70s, we are experiencing exactly what Badenoch has escaped. She says, I'm a child of the 1980s. Lagos was a place where almost everything seemed broken, she said at the 2024 International Democracy Union Forum in DC. At the Conservative Conference in 2024, she said her childhood in Nigeria was filled with tales of horror, characterized by screams of neighbors every night being attacked, leading to fears about whether her apartment would be the next target. So she knows what's causing this. She's lived this in the same way that I know the Lebanese civil war and I've lived this and I understand what happens. She has. Except that she's not being honest about her own experiences. And the litany of events that we saw just being publicized from 31 October until today kind of confirms that. Kind of confirms that you're hearing the screams of neighbors every night being attacked and wondering if you're going to be next. And this is deliberate government policy. This isn't an accident. Today I was doing research about the sort of next realpolitik that I'm doing in half an hour after the show, and I realized that the British government had created a program to settle the white helmets in Britain. The white helmets of Syria are literally medics affiliated with Al-Qaeda. They've gotten a permission to settle in Britain, and they're being brought into Britain. And the only person who sort of looks at this honestly is Rupert Lowe. He says thousands of small boats illegals are no longer technically asylum seekers, meaning that when their children commit attacks, they will be described as British-born, in the same way that Anthony Williams has been described as British-born. And he wrote to Keir Starmer, and I think I just want to read to you the first couple of sentences. Once again, our streets and our communities have been shattered by brutal, senseless, and barbaric violence. Britain did not used to be like this, nor does Britain have to be like this. We must not accept it as the new normal. Yes. But this is how normal it is. What was it, 10, 12 incidents? Just from 31 October till today? These are just the incidents publicized between 31 October till today. Not a representative sample, maybe, whatever. But pick any time period and do some research, and you'll see the exact same pattern. And what do we get from the government? Let's listen to John Healey. I think he's the defense secretary, saying very profound thoughts.
Can the public feel safe going about their business? Can the government say that with any degree of certainty right now?
Yes, the British public is resilient.
The British public is resilient, as in shut up and suffer. This is what it means. It means I will take no responsibility for the decisions of my government and its predecessors. The British public is resilient.
We're not going to be put off carrying on our everyday life. I'll be using that train service back home at the end of the week, just as
presumably with security and armed security.
I do every week. But what I think the public should be is more vigilant for themselves, the circumstances around them. And of course, for all of us, we need to be more careful and more vigilant with many of our electronic devices and some of the cyber risks that we may also face.
Which means that there is no feeling of safety. And again, he speaks as if the problem is not violent crime, but people criticizing the policies that
yes,
result in
absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
Several years ago now, when Sadiq Khan says, it's just part and parcel of living in a big city, we've now finally arrived at the point where it's just part and parcel of living in Britain.
Yes. Yes,
just
much.
Across the board, the entire nation.
Pretty much.
That's what it is
Pretty
now.
much. Be more vigilant. What does that mean? That means that you're not safe. If you're safe, you get to relax. This is one way of saying around certain people, never relax. That's what he's saying. He's also saying more of these people should be brought. That's the argument here. And Lewis Goodall, I couldn't sort of let this go. Here he's criticizing Matt Goodwin.
A friend texts from abroad this morning. He tweets 41 minutes ago, "What has happened to your country?" 3 words, he says. "Mass uncontrolled immigration." That's what's happened. I mean, for goodness sake, this is absurd. We've just heard from the police that the 2 suspects are British nationals. They're both born in the United Kingdom. That's not immigration, that's people who are here. And these people basically...
You
just
bloody
sophistry.
moron.
Just sophistry.
You bloody moron. Their parents were immigrants. And it is an immigration story because certain communities are more prone to certain actions than others. And this finding is replicated in every single society that looks into it. There has never been a study that looked into this subject and didn't find the exact same thing.
Yes, I have to add 2 things here. First of all, he's a leftist. Leftists don't understand probability. They constantly talk about the possibility of crime. They don't understand probability of crime. That's why there was a guy on X who posted news about a pedophile, and he was saying, look, he's white. Where is all the far right talking about it?
Yeah.
It's absolutely stupid and sophistic because, first of all, people who are right-wingers, I'm not going to play along that stupid term that they're constantly using to talk about Mussolini and Millet in the same sentence, but right-wingers are almost invariably in favor of tough punishment. They're never soft on crime.
Exactly.
And when it comes to being against people who are committing crimes of this sort, the main line of thinking is, I don't want this to happen to my family. I don't want this to happen to my kids, to my community, to my friends, to people in my nation, and then
to reinforce your
humanity. And this shows that they only think in terms of groups, and it's absolutely disgusting.
To reinforce your point, if a white working class guy from an area that had been deindustrialized had done this, nobody would say that this is Margaret Thatcher's fault for deindustrialization and that therefore he should receive more lenient punishment.
Yeah.
Every white person would say, hang him.
The issue, though, is, which I'm going to tie again with possibility and probability that I said before, is that leftists are constantly going to say that, hey, it's white British men who are committing crime as well, and they can commit crime, so don't just not talk about it. But they completely ignore the fact that crime isn't distributed evenly in communities.
No.
And the very fact that some communities are overrepresented in violent crime is a problem in and of itself.
Correct.
And people like Lewis Goodall, they just want to refuse to talk about it.
Well, can I just say one more thing about this Lewis Goodall business as well, which is just the fact that whilst Lewis Goodall proceeds to just go on LBC or news agents or whatever it is with Mateless and the rest of those cronies every day and basically just parrot the establishment line, more people are going to die.
Yes.
This is not the last time we're going to report this. And this is what is...
Die or get raped or get their lives destroyed.
And so whilst Lewis is there busy saying things that make him feel good, that make him feel moral... He is supporting a system that, as we've pointed out, actually says we don't have a solution to deal with this because there isn't a liberal solution to deal with this, and therefore you're not going to be safe, but you're resilient, aren't you? So stiff upper lip and all that, because you're British. Now go out there, get on the train, and potentially run into some foreigner who we've let in the country that shouldn't be here, or their children, or so on and so forth.
And the last word from the establishment on this: women afraid to be out in public after racially aggravated rapes. But this is talking about the 2 alleged incidents where Indian women were allegedly raped because of their skin color, or where it was part of the thinking. It has nothing to do with the grooming gangs or with the violence for migrants or what have you. But this is what the BBC is worried about. And this is the kind of narrative that's being pushed by the BBC, that you are the enemy. And the only conclusion is that they want you to suffer, that this is deliberate policy intended to test your resilience and break your resilience until you submit and have the total police state that they dream of. This is insane. This is insane. And it's deliberate. And it's evil. And that's what I want to close with.
If you would like to watch the full uncut version that is also uncensored, head on over to lotuseaters.com to find out more.